This is another example by Mark Sanford, and I'm working on Mark Sanford for the last 2 years. This is fascinating. Just very briefly, he was the governor of South Carolina, and he was away for a week in Argentina. And he came back and was caught at the airport, and then on the same day came out with a press conference. And 8 minutes into the press conference, nobody knew, and I'm analyzing this also by looking at the audiences, how they make sense of this at the time, yeah, online. 8 minutes into the conference, he says, I was in Argentina and I'm in love with a woman in Argentina. Yeah. So before that, he starts this way.
I won't begin in any particular spot. Let me just start with, I don't see it. Where's Gina Smith? Not here? Okay. I had a conversation with Gina Smith this morning when I arrived
in Atlanta.
And I told her about my love of the Appalachian Trail. I used to organize hiking trips. Actually, when I was in high school, I would get a soccer coach or a football coach.
Press conference, guys.
Act as chaperone, and then I get
emergency press conference.
Maybe $60 each or whatever it was to take the trip, and then off we go and have these great adventures in the Appalachian Trail.
Story. Moving into the story mode. And this goes on, and this is fascinating. Look at it on YouTube. I mean, for analytic purposes, not for getting all enraged. Here is a very direct way. Let's just...
Very much, Paul.
Yeah. Letterman. Oh, Letterman comes out and confesses that he was having sex with women. So we don't know about that. He didn't confess that. But yeah, here is directly. And this is brilliant. This is another piece that I'm working currently on.
I'm glad you folks are here tonight, and I'm glad you're in such a pleasant mood, because I have a little story that I would like to tell you and the whole group as well. Do you feel like a story?
Who doesn't want a story? Right, and then he goes on. And we'll, if we have time at the end, we'll get back to that, because it's fascinating the way this is. So let's move on and do a little analysis, a little work, yeah, to just work through this. What is going on? Again, with regard to the three identity dilemmata, I think is the right plural, isn't that right?
Yes, agreed.
Thank you. I know I can rely on a good Catholic. All right. I grew up as a small town boy in North Carolina, you know. Came from nothing, worked very hard, and dreamed that I'd be able to do something hopeful, self-correction, and helpful to other people in my life. I became a lawyer. So, growing up in a small town in North Carolina, what is that doing? What is the image that one could say is appealed to? Or that, you know, a good American listener, viewer, is taking away?
Innocent, he's trustworthy.
Child, which child isn't innocent and trustworthy? Yeah, and even boys. Okay. North Carolina, small town, good. Yeah, growing up, and in that sense, who doesn't want to be like that? I mean, even if you are a girl. Yeah. So this is, I would argue, the attempt to draw identifications in sameness. I'm the same as everybody else. At least I used to. We get there. So I came from nothing, yeah, worked very hard. This is also a very typical American discourse. But working very hard, this is definitely high agency. And in the next two lines, there's possibly the highest agency than that one can imagine. And that is, yeah, dreaming of your future 10 years ahead of you, putting all your eggs in that basket in your education, and becoming the person who is changing the world, challenging conventions and changing the world. That is how Clark University is trying to pull young students. Yeah, but this is an American orientation that gives you the intention and the power to be an agent in this world. Yeah, this is highly agentive. anticipating it and doing it. It's more than just doing it, yeah, like working hard. So this is the queen, if you want to, of agency in the navigation, in contrast to what's coming up later. And this is where we're turning to line 1890, yeah? Excuse me, line 1560. Yeah, I became a successful lawyer. People were telling me in line 16, oh, he's such a great person. He is such a great person. So this is not where I was in command, in control, the agent, but people. People labeled me. So there's a slight shift, yeah, which is fine. It's still highly or relatively agent, but it's lowering the agent. And I will skip the next couple of lines and move on to being fed in line 27 on the next page. Yeah, all of this fed. And now comes the negative stuff. Yeah, a self-focus and egotism and narcissism. So the metaphor of being fed is one where agency is low. I am the undergoer in this situation. Yeah, like being fed by a spoon, whether you want to or not, you have to swallow it. So it was not my volition, my agency anymore. It was something that was done to me. And this is where the negative stuff kicks in. And this is already where the facial expression begins to change. Yeah? People were telling me there's a leaning back, there's a eye movement of squirting the eyes, of expressing that there's a disconnection, in contrast to let me explain what happened. Now this changes then with line 36 and 38. But nothing could be further from the truth. So what is this smile doing here? And if you're only having this, I think you could argue what Tonya Ryman was trying to argue. Yes?
I'm also struck with he shifts from I to you, leads you to believe that
Bravo.
You can do, that you're invincible, rather than I believe.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so much going on in the transcript, and I encourage you, if you have these kinds of little ideas of what's going on here from your own reading, please enter them. Yeah, that also helps of making sense of what is going on. There are all these different levels. Exactly. Yeah, when you change from the I to you, yeah, it could happen to you. Yeah. And by the way, when you look then later that night and the night after on the blogs, there's nothing of it happened to me. Yeah, I get back to that. Yeah, it happened to me too, or something like this.
Well,
Yes.
I was also just noticing truth in line 37, because again, it's objective. Now I'm getting to the objective truth. I was a narcissist. I'm no longer. I'm not really.
I was made a narcissist.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, right. I wasn't a narcissist. They fed me narcissist.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And now we're getting to the truth. Okay. Right. I mean, there are these levels, and I think you see that. Yeah, we're doing microanalysis here, and often people think, well, you're reading a lot into this. But there's stuff going on. And there's stuff going on also with the bodily expression. So let's move a little bit further and get to the bottom here, the bottom of all this. In the excerpt 2, again, there's this distancing. Yeah. The important thing is how I could ever get to the place. And then there's a self-correction. To that place. What is the difference between this, that? That is farther away. Yeah, and this is what English does, or certain little items do. Yeah, and we know this, we sense this, if you're a native speaker. But we can focus on it and pull it out, that these are the kinds of repertoires that we use. Consciously, unconsciously is not the question, really. These are the kinds of mechanisms that are at work. Good. And then it says, and allow myself, yeah, to let that happen. I allowed myself to let that happen. You know, this is like, I don't know, my students know Shaggy from 10, 12 years ago. There was a video. It wasn't me, and it was very explicitly him. But it is like that. I have nothing to do with it. You know, I'm questioning myself, how I could allow myself to.
Being a good old Catholic, that's the sin of omission, not commission.
Is that what you tell them? Good, okay. Right.